Deputy Andrew Doyle. The Deputy has 10 minutes.
Thanks, Cahirla. Well, first of all, I welcome the opportunity to speak, but I think the fact that we're having this discussion at all means that there is at last some recognition of the need to address the whole issue, not just homelessness, but housing supply and the dearth of it. And it is incredible to think that I remember previous Minister for the Environment, Minister Dick Roach from my own constituency, going on the television one day say, hopefully this year we will build 80,000 houses. And we hope to get it up to that. And the problem was we were building them poorly, in the wrong places, and they were costing too much. And it beggars belief that we actually should have a discussion about homeless or shortage of housing at all. Nonetheless, we have. In 2010, that much maligned organisation, the Construction Industry Federation, conducted a survey that showed that Limerick City, followed by Wicklow, Kildare, Limerick County, Cork City, Waterford, this outside Dublin, had the least amount of reserve housing stock available, and flagged that there was going to be a problem. And we have had, it was okay when everything was depressed, the market for letting was depressed, but as it has risen and new family formations come on board, it's quite apparent that we are, after spending the last 2 or 3 weeks talking about one particular matter, when we should be focusing on issues like this. This is the big crisis coming in. Unless we address it urgently, and I welcome the initiatives that the government are taking, I understand that nothing can happen very immediately, with the exception of a few, like turning around vacant stock that needs to be put back into the system. And I note that there's 15 million for that. There are the ability for the local authorities to go in and lease or purchase property. There is the option of allowing voluntary housing agencies to actually provide some housing. But I think the big problem is, and I see it in Wicklow, and it's the same in the areas around the greater urban settlements, that there isn't enough of houses becoming available. It's a banking issue, it's a confidence issue, and it's a matter of getting the whole thing cranked up again. Unless we do that, we are going to be firefighting for the next 4 or 5 years. We will not sort out the dearth of housing. On homelessness itself, you know, the fact that there's now the Minister is going to have a coordinated approach to this is very welcome. It's estimated that somewhere between 75 and 80 million a year is spent on homeless initiatives, on supporting homelessness, between the Department of Environment through Minister O'Sullivan's office and the HSE. So that's a huge amount of money spent every year with a comparatively small cohort of people in the national context. It would seem to me a lot more sensible if we were to try and divert 10% of that. And I do acknowledge that 1,500 people, I think the Minister has said in opening the discussion, have moved from the homeless service in the last 2 years in Dublin, which is to be welcomed with all the necessary supports. But if a percentage of that 75 odd million was diverted into targeted initiatives to provide long-term housing, to provide the supports, to stop people and to get them out of homelessness, to move away from the shelter, high-cost shelter accommodation that we see around the place. And the Minister is aware of grave concerns I've had about an initiative that Dublin Simon have put into Wicklow, where it seems there was no consultation with the local drugs task force, there was no proper tender process, and yet they've established and are very precious about giving away any information, about consulting with the local community, and seem to be using it. And I hate to use the term as some sort of a means of drawing down state funding. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I certainly have grave concerns about it. So I think this needs a multi-agency approach. I think the Minister, in fairness, by creating the oversight group, the homeless oversight group, has started in the right vein. But I think it's going to need the other government departments, environment in particular, finance and social protection for short-term measures. We have a situation in Wicklow, again, and other parts, it has been mentioned, where rent supplement has gone down in a diminishing stock availability, where there's becoming a natural prejudice against social rent supplement clients because they can get more in the open market. I have one case of a girl, a single parent with 2 children, 11 and 5. One has severe autism, has always paid, but because the rent is now going down, the landlord has no choice but to actually ask her to leave. It's actually very heart-rending to see this case. And in the very short term, just restoring the rent supplement would sort out that person's problem. Another case, 3 children, one with special needs. The owner of the property is in NAMA, the property is being sold, and it's very difficult to get because there's no housing stock available. And that is available, and daft.ie and others will prove this. The rents achievable are far higher than what the supplement is. And the father in this case is actually the carer of the young child with special needs. So these are just human stories that all of us in all of our constituency clinics come across every day. So I welcome the fact that we have the initiative, the discussion, but I do think we need actions. And I know there's the government are saying that there is construction, targeted construction initiatives to be announced in the very short coming couple of weeks. Nonetheless, they will take at least a year to 18 months to roll out any significant numbers of stock. And when you look at the numbers, probably about 5,000 families in Wicklow alone, 2.5 outside of Arklow, Wicklow and Bray, I know that, on the housing list. You know, to get even half of that built in the next 12 to 18 months is virtually impossible. So we really have to concentrate on the short term, the medium term and the long term. There are people now who are not what would be called as the classic profile or cohort of people who will be presenting as homeless. There are people who can't afford to pay their mortgages, and you know, other initiatives with the banks and mortgage resolution, etc., are helping. There are people who are, as I give an example of, where the rent has gone down and for that reason they have to become homeless. These people never, ever would normally have become homeless. The more classic case is somebody who has either an alcohol, mental health problem, social, some social limitations or disabilities or whatever, social skills, who present as homeless are very unfortunate. But that number is being added to by others who should not and might not be on it, but for a lack over the years. And I know Deputy McGrath said, get on with it. Yes, we are, but it is, unfortunately, a legacy issue. 80,000 homes being built in a year, and we have a homeless crisis today. Something drastically wrong. So I welcome again, thank the Minister for sitting through the discussions and listening to what we all have to say. I think there's across the House, across party agreement that this is something that needs to be tackled. I would hope that when you know, any initiatives that are taken, that they're welcomed, that they're incremental, that they're built on. I know it's expected that 5,000 new units will be built in 2014 nationally. And it's a small amount, but it's a start. And I think we need to ramp that up as quickly and as strategically placed as possible. There are ghost estates where there is not the same level of housing need. There are no ghost estates, no vacant stock in places where the greatest need is. And I think that's the key fact that we have to focus in on. Thank you.
The next